This show may and will contain adult language. Parental guidance is suggested. Hello again, everyone. It's Dwayne. It's Sunday, so it's time for Sundays with Dwayne. Duh. Okay, I hope everyone's had a great week. I have. It's been a pretty nice one, but you don't want to hear about all that. You want to hear what's going on in the world. So let's get started. First of all, let's talk about some obituaries. A couple of note. I didn't touch on this last week that B.B. King had died, one of the greats of blues, and he will be missed. This week, actually last Sunday, he passed away, but it wasn't announced until Thursday. Christopher Lee was 93. He passed away from heart failure and respiratory issues. One of the greatest actors ever. He played everything from Dracula to Count Dooku and every villain in between, and he did it with flair. He was one of the best actors, like I said, that has ever acted in any movie, TV, whatever. And another personal favorite passed away this past week, again on Thursday. Virgil Runnels. For those of you who do not know who Virgil Runnels is, he was Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, the wrestler. He wrestled with the likes of Jerry Lawler, Bill Dundee, Hulk Hogan, Handsome Jimmy Valiant, and a host of others. Dusty Rhodes was 69. Not sure exactly how he died, but I'm guessing that it's probably heart failure. I love Dusty Rhodes while I was watching wrestling because those polka dot tights he wore, he was something else. So, yeah, he's up there with a lot of other wrestlers right now looking down and hopefully not trying to wrestle some angel. All right, let's get away from the obituaries. I also want to make a little bit of amends here. I was remiss in my duties last week. I had so many things on my mind, I simply forgot that American Pharaoh won the Triple Crown after like 5,000 years or whatever it was. What was it? It was sometime in the 70s. It was either 32 or 37 years that we had that drought. Affirmed was the last horse that won the Triple Crown. So now we have American Pharaoh. So congratulations to all those involved. All right, let's move on to some of the stuff in the news. Friday, this past Friday, the TAA, the Trade Adjustment Assistance Bill, didn't pass. Yay! It was a 219 to 211 vote. Now, from what I heard, the Republicans were trying to help out the community organizer in chief on this one, and the Democrats wanted no part of the bill. And I think for once I may have to agree with the Democrats on this one. I did not want that bill to pass. From everything I heard, it was a bad deal. Oh, yeah, it was going to help out a lot of corporations and it was going to bring foreign workers into the country, kind of like what Disney did with their uh, employees when they brought a bunch of foreign workers in from India, Punjab, or someplace, and made the Disney workers train their replacements. That way they could get a year's severance pay. Otherwise, they'd be out on their butts. If it wasn't for Marvel and all that stuff, I would say boycott Disney. I think Disney's luster is going to lose a lot of shine here because of what they've done. Somewhere, somehow down the road, it will come back to bite them in the ass. All right, speaking of biting things in the ass, let's talk about the McKinney, Texas pool party for a minute. Did anybody see the video? Not the one that the media was showing, but the actual video where they're showing the fights prior to the cop coming up. And these kids that were there, that, well, okay, let's put it like this. There were some black youth that crashed this pool party. They jumped a fence to get into this pool party. It was an after school special or something that the parents were throwing for their kids. And these black kids decided they were going to crash the party. And they were summarily told that they were not invited, they'd have to leave. And that's when the trouble started and fights ensued. This one cop, and I'm not going to even mention his name because it's not worth mentioning, slammed some 14-year-old black girl in a bathing suit down on the ground because basically she got in his face and was not wanting to cooperate with what he was telling her to do. Respect my authority! He was going to arrest her. And then two thug wannabes, from what I could tell, come running up. One of them kind of jumped real close to the cop, within about 2 foot, just out of the cop's line of sight. He caught him out of the corner of his eye, and I guess felt that his life was in danger, pulled a gun. Of course, they run off, and two other cops come up at this point. Well, they want that cop arrested. They want him tried and convicted for his sins of being a racist cop. There wasn't anything racist about it. He was in fear for his life. But he did the right thing. He resigned from the McKinney police force. I can tell you, if I was him, if I was a cop, and two kids come up like that, kind of being antsy, and were jumping like they were going to jump on him or jump on me at that point, I would have done more than pulled my gun. I would have unloaded it on those little bastards. But that's just me. The cop showed a great deal of patience, if you ask me. But my opinion doesn't matter on that. Subsequently, a teacher, a fourth grade teacher, got fired from one of the schools up there. I'm not sure. I remember reading it, but I couldn't tell you what it is right now. Because she made this comment, I think it was on Twitter or Instagram or something, that she wished they would segregate the schools again because they need to keep everybody apart to keep everybody safe. You big dummy. You want to talk about racist? That was pretty racist, if you ask me. And yeah, she did lose her job, and rightly so. I don't care if you're black or white, folks. If you do not listen to the police when they tell you to do something, if you try to resist arrest or you get up in a cop's face, expect to have what happened to that girl and those two young men happen. Here's the problem. The kids are not taught any respect, not for the police, not for their elders, not for anyone. Hell, they don't have enough respect for themselves. And it's not just black kids, it's white kids, it's Hispanic kids. If you are not taught respect, you are not going to have respect. If you come from families that don't give a rat's ass where you're at 3 o'clock in the morning or 5 in the afternoon or any place else, guess what? You're going to have problems like this. Nip it in the bud. It just makes sense that parents need to teach their children to respect the authority of a police officer and not get in his way and act like a bunch of idiots when the cops are doing their job. I feel sorry for the cop because, like I said, if it had been me and I saw what was going on out of the corner of my eye, don't you think I'd pull my gun and start shooting somebody? It's a good thing I'm not a cop because I would not have the patience that cops have to have in doing their job. I don't think there was anything racist there. I think he was just doing what he thought had to be done. The stupid thing on his part, he did not wait for backup. I would have let the fights go until the cops showed up in mass and then gone after all of them that were there and start locking up a bunch of bozos because that's all those kids were.
Thank you for your cooperation.
But enough of that. This week, Chinese hackers got into the personal information of as many as 14 million current and former civilian U.S. government employees. Of course, the White House said it was just about 4 million. 14 million current and former employees had their information stolen from the government. And of course, the Chinese government said, oh, no, we didn't do it. Well, whether the Chinese government or not did or didn't do it makes no difference. The Chinese hackers did. And what are they going to do with that information?
Wipe them out. All of them.
Watch your credit scores, folks, is all I can tell you. Because you may not have any money in the bank. You may not have a drop of credit before it's over with, especially if you're in the government. I have some sad news to report. After 26 seasons, Homer and Marge Simpson are splitting up.
Stop!
Moving right along. All right. I have a little bit more serious story here. Woman by the name of Joyce Mitchell. She's the industrial training supervisor in a tailor shop up at the Clinton Correctional Facility in Dannemora, New York, or Dannemora, pardon me, has been questioned about the escape last weekend of convicted killers Richard Matt and David Sweat. They escaped last week using saws and other equipment that obviously was smuggled in by someone, and come to find out that this Joyce Mitchell was the one who did it. Now, she was actually reported to be the one who was going to drive the getaway car, but she ended up in the hospital for a panic attack. Sounds about right. I'd be panicking too at that point. And of course, for what she did, she's going to be facing a Class D felony, which essentially means that she'll be facing between 2 and 7 years in prison. I think she was in love with one of the escapees. Love is blind. Sometimes it's deaf and dumb, too. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back.
This portion of our program is brought to you by the following sponsor.
The definition of chitty is childish. Sheep chitty is a childish sheep, full of wonder. And it's with that wonderment that created Sheep Chitty Beer. Irving Schitz toyed with the idea of creating an authentic Irish brew that would stand up to any other Irish beers. And Schitz created Sheep Chitty Beer. Sheep Chitty Beer is a brew worthy of the Schitz Brewery. Malt, hops, and barley, with a special blend of other all-natural ingredients, makes Cheap Shitty Beer unlike all the others. Excuse me, but that's Sheep Chitty Beer. That's what I said.
No, you called it cheap, shitty beer.
I did?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I must have gotten tongue-tied.
Let's take it from that last line.
Cheap Chitty beer is unlike any other beer. Cheap Shitty beer is perfect for...
Cut. You did it again.
Did what?
Called it cheap, shitty beer.
I did? I'm truly sorry.
You know, the folks at the brewery won't want to hear their beer called cheap, shitty beer.
I can understand that. Their sales would plummet.
Exactly. Okay, let's take it from the last line.
Cheap Shitty beer comes in convenient...
Cut.
Did I do it again?
Yes, you did.
I am a professional. I can do this.
Let's hope so. Okay, take 23.
Cheap Shitty beer is perfect for any occasion and...
It's cheap, shitty beer.
Didn't I say that?
No, you keep calling it cheap, shitty beer.
Well, from the taste of it, I think I'm right.
Okay, can you just say the last line and we'll be done here?
Sure. So for that full-bodied taste like no other, remember, buy a case of cheap shitty beer today.
Cut!
Nailed it.
You sure did. This is cheap, shitty beer.
That's cheap chitty beer. You need to remember that.
That's a wrap.
Cheap shitty beer. Sheep chitty beer. Another life-altering product from Consolidated Cybernetics Corporation of America. CCCOA, Buzzard Bait, Kentucky. And we're back. Okay. I saw something the other day online. I can't exactly tell you where I saw it. I think it might have been on Facebook. It could have been on Yahoo News. I don't know. But it involved a kid who had been adopted from Colombia. And he was a special needs kid. Learning disabled, autism. And 5 kids. Now, I'm guessing these kids were like 5th or 6th grade, something like that. But these 5 kids took it upon themselves to protect this autistic child. And basically befriend him. Now, this story kind of touched me because I have an autistic son. Actually, I have 2 autistic sons. One has Asperger's and is like mega genius. But the other is learning disabled, autism. Mr. Warmth and personality, though, he is like a rock star in school, has friends, and plays in Special Olympics. He's very good at sports. So this story kind of touched me because of that. These 5 young men, not kids, I guess, but fine young men, took it upon themselves to be his protector, to be his friend. They asked him one day what kind of video games he played. Well, he doesn't have a video game system. The story is that not long after he was adopted, the adopted father died in a bike wreck. I don't know if it was a bicycle or a motorcycle, but whatever it was, he was dead. So it was the adopted mother and the child. And basically, these 5 kids, finding out that he didn't have a video game system, used their allowance and got their parents to help too, to buy him like an Xbox. And then they brought it to him, set it up, and then they showed him how to play games. Now, in the video, it was showing that they were playing football. Of course, it was a Nerf ball. and they were letting him run the ball into the end zone, and then he turned around and spiked the ball, and they were all high-fiving him, you know. Just think of the utter contrast from that story down in McKinney, Texas, or in Ferguson, Missouri, or Baltimore, Maryland, or wherever we have had kids get in trouble with the police and riot and do all these stupid things. And then think of the contrast between these 5 kids who are not only concerned about this kid, but willing to sacrifice to make sure that he had something that they had where he would fit in even more. That's a hell of a thing to do. And the contrast is just night and day. I look at kids, young people today. I remember back when I was their ages, and yeah, you always are going to have kids get into mischief. You're going to have kids do things that really, well, they're not supposed to be doing. But when it comes right down to it, if you were stopped by a cop or something like that, it's yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. I went before a judge over 3 parking tickets, and I'm sitting there, of course, with my last name beginning with S. I had to sit there for about 3 hours while they were going through this cornucopia of crooks. There was one kid who absolutely disrespected the court. He had an FU t-shirt with a big finger in the middle of it. And when he got up, he turned around, and that's when it hit me, because he turned around to say something to whoever was there with him. And went before the judge, and the judge looked at him, knew exactly who he was dealing with at that point. A piece of shit. He had broken into some houses and stole a car and all this, and he wound up going straight to jail because he was a cocky little bastard and he disrespected the court. I went in with shirt and tie, dress pants, dress shoes, and when I went before the judge, it was yes, sir, no, sir. I respected the court. And everybody before me was sentenced to either jail or they had to pay fines. They threw my 3 parking tickets out. Sometimes all you have to do is just respect the authorities. And you won't go to jail or you won't do time. But if you act like an imbecile, you act like a moron, you act like a pack animal, you're going to be treated as such. You got kids out there playing the knockout game. You got kids out there. Just to give you an idea, last year before the Derby, not this Derby past, but the one before, we had a bunch of middle school kids who run rampant, robbing stores and breaking things and just being general nuisances. They had posted all this on social media that they were going to do it. And there were hundreds of them running like a pack animal fiasco. And they were afraid they were going to screw up the Derby. Well, nothing ever panned out there. Thank God. These were middle school kids doing this. Can you imagine what older kids could do? What they do at times? Especially if they're in gangs or something like that. But you don't have to be a gangbanger in order to be a troublemaker. Sometimes all you have to do is show up and disrespect the authority of the police or whoever is there, and you find yourself in a world of hurt. Parents and grandparents should be teaching the kids from an early age. You do not disrespect the police. If you do, you deserve exactly what you get, you little bastard. Am I wrong? Maybe I am. I don't know. Maybe I'm just old fashioned. I don't understand what the millennials are like anymore. Because a lot of these so called millennials are the brat generation. They've been handed everything. There was a story here. I'm going to do a local story. I'm not going to tell you where I heard it. But they're going to put free Wi Fi downtown where these people can have free Wi Fi to use on their computers. Where are they getting the computers? If they're so poor, are they being given to them? Are these Obama computers or something? I mean, they're getting the Obama phones and everything else. What I have to sit and work my ass for it to pay for, the government is handing it to people. Why do you think they don't want to work? They're given everything. You don't learn respect that way. These kids wanted $15 an hour to flip a frickin' burger and put a pickle on a bun. They don't know respect. You want to pay someone $15 an hour, pay our soldiers that kind of money. Pay our politicians minimum wage. Let's see how fast things change. But anyway, getting back to the kids. The stark contrast between the kids at the pool party jumping a fence, crashing a party that they were not invited to attend, and these 5 kids who are protecting this kid with autism. Those 5 kids are going to be leaders. They will be fine, upstanding citizens. As for the rest of that bunch of pack animals down there in McKinney, Texas, the rioters in Baltimore and Ferguson and wherever else, it sucks being you. You know, when the riots were going on in Ferguson and they were going on in Baltimore, they were burning out stores and everything else. I said, you know, I would not rebuild anything down there. I'd let them rot. They shit in their nest. They ought to be able to sleep in it. I feel sorry for the people who lost their businesses. And I hope that the insurance companies do good by them. But if I was the insurers, I would say, I'll give you money, but you cannot rebuild there, because if you do, you're on your own. You won't get any more insurance. People lost jobs and livelihood because of a bunch of troublemakers, a bunch of stupid kids looting and destroying. But these 5 kids taking care of that autistic kid does give me hope that there will be a future. All right, my time's up. Thank you for yours. You guys have a great week, and we'll see you again next Sunday. Until then, later.